It was the way she crossed her legs that struck me first. Right there in the courtroom, ankle resting neatly on her opposite knee, heel bobbing in rhythm with the smirk playing on her lips. It was rehearsed, polished, the way she always behaved when she assumed the game was already hers. I didn't meet her eyes. I didn't need to. Just catching her in the corner of my vision was enough to catch the smug nod she passed to her new husband, James, as the judge reviewed the final draft of our divorce settlement. This had all been planned. That much was obvious. 3 years of marriage. 5 years building a business side by side. 14 years of knowing exactly how to smile like she meant it, until she didn't. Until the day I spoke and found her lips already shaped around someone else's script. Maybe the courtroom wasn't actually that hot. Maybe it was just the heat that had been burning in my chest for 5 months, refusing to fade. Her lawyer cleared his throat. James let out a laugh, too loud, too timed. She gently rested her hand over his. A sign. I caught it. Then the judge paused, hands frozen mid-flip of the documents. And he laughed, not a snort, not a chuckle. He leaned back in his chair and laughed like he'd just read the unexpected final page of a book he thought he had figured out. And in that moment, for the first time in half a year, I smiled. 6 months ago, she said she needed distance. Claimed she was suffocating under the weight of everything we'd built. Said I had turned into a machine, efficient, driven, but cold. Loveless. The bitter twist. That accusation came from the same mouth that once urged me to push harder, to expand relentlessly, to scale no matter the cost. So I listened. I booked her a wellness retreat. She left in tears and returned with silence. Something had shifted. She was too careful, too composed. Her eyes didn't scan the room anymore, they scanned me. I asked her if she was all right. She kissed my cheek, but the feeling didn't leave. That weekend, a quiet unease made me review the security footage. And there he was, James, sitting in my office chair, feet kicked up on my desk, laughing. She had brought him into the business, called him a consultant, an investment advisor. I believed her. Back then, I had no reason not to. But James didn't look at her like a colleague. He looked at her the way I used to, before she learned how to use affection like a weapon, before she traded warmth for calculation. I didn't confront her. Emotion muddy strategy. Instead, I followed the data. I pulled every system log, meeting room swipe, audit trail, metadata from emails. Every keystroke leaves a trace, if you know where to look. It didn't take long. His visits lined up with her calendar. He had accessed restricted files in the middle of the night. Deleted communications were recovered, along with timestamp clues she never realized I could retrieve. I hired someone, not the kind you find through websites, the kind you meet in shadows who never ask your name. He delivered a package, photographs. Her and James. Too close, too often. Hotel corridors. Conference booths. My private cabin, the one she swore was haunted after our last fight. That was the same week she filed for divorce. There was no prenup. And the merger? Public. $9 million. She wanted half. No, more than half. Because I had stepped back months earlier. Given her full operational control while I shifted into an advisory role. She told the court it proved she was the engine behind our empire. I let her think so. Let her spin her golden web of self-victimization. Because I had something she didn't time. And a trail. 3 days before the final hearing, I walked into the clerk's office. Dropped off a sealed envelope. Walked out. Inside, a full financial audit. Board meeting records. Traced fund transfers that led directly to an offshore account shared by her and James. Nothing illegal, just enough to stain her claims. Enough to expose the cracks in her story. And notarized testimony from the merger's original attorney, verifying that I had always retained controlling interest, hidden under a trust. A trust she didn't know bore my pseudonym. While she and James plotted their little takeover, I had been building backdoors and exits, quietly, flawlessly. The judge read every word. And then he laughed. I still hadn't looked at her. Not when he set the documents aside. Not when her lawyer began to twitch with unease. Not even when James lost every drop of color in his face. Miss Levant, the judge said at last, turning his eyes to her. You may want to revisit the definitions of perjury and fraud. Her smile faltered. Slightly. Just enough to reveal the edge of something real, fear. I leaned forward, not to speak, not to gloat, but to place one final piece of paper on the table. It was the document she signed 2 years ago, flushed with champagne after we sealed our first 8-figure deal. She thought it was symbolic, romantic. She didn't read it, just signed. It granted me full legal decision-making authority over the company. Now it sat between us like a blade. James tried to take her hand. She pulled away, and for the first time in a very long while, she looked at me. I looked back. There was no anger left in me, no hatred, just stillness, and the strange clarity that arrives once the storm passes and you're the only one still standing. People say betrayal burns. It doesn't. It freezes. Cold. Sharp. Calculated. She tried to destroy me. What she never understood was that I had built the company the same way I built myself. Layer by layer. Contingency after contingency. Designed to withstand theft. Lies. Even betrayal, especially hers. The judge dismissed her claims. With prejudice. I stood up before the next case was called. Walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Because silence, it echoes louder than any scream. And in that courtroom, I didn't leave a scene. I left a landslide.